I watched her leave without trying to stop her. I stayed seated and finished my food in silence. There is a strange ache that comes with discovering your life has been built on falsehoods. But that night it wasn't the lie that shattered me, it was finally confronting the truth. The evening itself had been completely ordinary, nothing memorable, nothing out of place. I had spent hours preparing her favorite meal, shrimp risotto, the one she never stopped praising. The candlelight flickered softly across the table, shadows swaying as if they sensed what was about to happen. She sat opposite me, wearing the same bright smile I had trusted for years. Yet the moment her fork touched the plate, I noticed it. A brief flash in her eyes, distant and cold. She placed her utensils down carefully, hesitating as though deciding whether to speak. I watched her closely, my chest tightening as the words finally came too calm, too polished to be real. She said she didn't feel well and needed a moment. I nodded, pretending to care, while my thoughts screamed in protest. Not again. Not tonight. I had seen this scene countless times before, the excuses, the disappearances, the scripted lines meant to keep me at a distance. But something was different this time. I didn't ask her to stay. I didn't reach for her. Instead, I lifted my fork, stabbed another piece of shrimp, and kept eating, chewing without feeling. My eyes stayed fixed on the empty chair she had just left behind. I didn't follow her. I didn't call her name. I was finished. Finished begging? Finished hoping? When the door finally clicked shut, something inside me changed. It wasn't sadness. It was a cold, precise clarity. This was no longer about love. It was about revenge. I was no longer the man in love with her. I was the man who would make her regret walking away. I once believed love was meant to be simple and magical. It wasn't supposed to hurt or leave you questioning everything. It wasn't meant to make you wonder if the person you gave your whole heart to had been deceiving you all along. Yet there I was, sitting in the same dining room where we had shared so many quiet moments, now weighed down by a lie so heavy it felt suffocating. Her name was Claire, beautiful, intelligent, effortlessly composed. To the world, she seemed flawless. People admired her, and I was no exception. From the moment we met 3 years earlier at a charity gala, I was drawn to her. Her laughter came easily, and her presence lit up every room she entered. I believe she understood me, that she matched my ambition and drive. For a long time, I convinced myself we were perfect together. We built a life quickly, or so I believed. She moved into my penthouse, the result of years spent climbing the corporate ladder. She smiled when I came home late, told me about her day, and I listened. But after the excitement faded, the cracks began to appear. Claire slowly grew distant. It started small, longer hours at work, meetings that never quite made sense, her constant need to step outside when I tried to spend time with her. I dismissed it all. People change, I told myself. Life gets busy, but something felt wrong. My instincts warned me, and I ignored them. Looking back, the signs were obvious: late nights, hidden messages, the guilt in her eyes whenever I asked about her day. Maybe I wasn't blind, maybe I was just afraid to face the truth. Her charm kept me believing. I defended every excuse she gave, telling myself she was just stressed. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered that I wasn't the only one in her life. What hurt the most wasn't just the betrayal. It was realizing I had allowed myself to be fooled. I gave her everything, my time, my trust, my love. Somewhere along the way, she pulled away, and I didn't see it until it was too late. Even my friends had noticed. They warned me gently, saying she didn't seem as invested as I was. My brother Tom had been especially direct, telling me she wasn't right for me. I ignored them all. Now, sitting alone in the silence, every memory felt tainted with doubt. The truth was unavoidable. I wasn't the man she loved. I was the man who gave her everything she wanted. In return, I received lies and empty promises. Her intentions were finally clear. She wasn't searching for love. She wanted something tangible: power, excitement, control. I hadn't stopped her, but I wasn't finished, not even close. I had crossed a line without realizing it, and the plans forming quietly in my mind were already taking shape. I would need patience, precision, because what I was planning would be something she would never forget. The apartment felt unbearably quiet. My half-finished meal sat untouched as time passed. Claire was never gone this long. 5 minutes, 10, panic crept in. Just as I reached for my phone, the door opened. She stepped inside, pale and shaken. This wasn't someone returning from a short break. Her voice trembled as she said she needed to tell me something. Then she confessed she had been seeing someone else. The words hit like a collapse. Beneath my feet, everything I believed shattered in an instant. I expected rage, pain, fury. Instead, numbness spread through me. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the woman I thought I knew, realizing she had never truly been mine at all. I had given her everything, and now I stood there wondering how I could have been so foolish. "You've been seeing someone else." The words finally escaped my mouth, though they barely sounded like my own. My voice was hoarse and fragile, almost carried away by the air between us. "How long?" I asked quietly. "How long has this been happening?" She avoided my eyes, staring anywhere but at me. After a pause, she admitted it had started a few months earlier. Her voice shook as she spoke. She said she never wanted to hurt me, that it wasn't supposed to turn into this. But her eyes betrayed her. They darted around the room, refusing to face the truth. I felt the weight of her betrayal close in on me like thick fog. Suddenly everything made sense. The late nights, the secret phone calls, the sudden disappearances. Understanding it didn't lessen the pain. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I didn't even cry. I stood frozen while reality settled in. Then something inside me cracked. I had spent so long questioning myself, wondering why I hadn't been enough. Now I understood. She had never truly belonged to me. She reached toward me, but I stepped back, pulling away as anger and disbelief churned beneath the surface. "Who is he?" I asked slowly, each word heavy, forcing the truth out of her. She stumbled over her response, saying it didn't matter, that he was someone she met through work, that it was never meant to happen. My mind struggled to keep up. Everything felt unreal, spinning beyond my control. I needed something solid to hold on to. "Not important," I repeated bitterly. "You've been lying to me for months, Claire. I've been here trusting you, cooking for you, believing in what we had." Every word carried the weight of all the doubts I had buried. And now she expected me to accept it. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing for her anymore. She had crossed a boundary I couldn't ignore. She begged, saying she never wanted to hurt me. I let out a hollow laugh. "Don't say that. If you were sorry, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have kept lying and letting me think I was the problem." The truth hit me hard. She wasn't who I thought she was. She had been hiding behind a mask, playing a game I never knew existed. I believed we were building a future together, but she had been living a separate life, one that didn't include me. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You should leave," I said quietly, my tone firm. Claire looked stunned. She had expected tears or anger, maybe even begging. I gave her nothing. "I'm not asking you to stay," I added coldly. "You've already made your choice." When she walked out, I didn't feel the explosive anger I expected. Instead, a dark calm settled over me. I was finished with her lies, her manipulation, her games. The apartment fell silent as the door closed behind her, the quiet heavier than any words she had spoken. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The door slammed shut, echoing through the empty space. I stood still, heart racing, mind eerily calm. It felt like waking from a nightmare, except it was real. Claire was gone. I expected relief, but instead I felt hollow. And I knew there was more she hadn't told me. The lies weren't over. I spent the night pacing, replaying everything, trying to make sense of it all. When my anger faded, curiosity took its place. I couldn't let her walk away untouched. That's when I began searching through her belongings. I felt stupid for trusting her, but who expects betrayal like this? Hidden beneath her clothes, I found an unopened envelope with no return address, only her handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single photograph, a blurry image of a man standing outside what appeared to be a hotel. His face was hidden, but I knew who he was, the man she had chosen over me. Turning the photo over, I noticed a name written on the back. Jack Langley. The name hit me harder than I expected. He was a powerful businessman, wealthy, influential, someone I had seen at charity events and in magazines. Why was Claire involved with him? Before I could think further, I heard a car pull into the garage. My stomach dropped. She was back. I rushed to the window and saw her car. Had she forgotten something? Or was she here to explain? I barely had time to think before I heard her footsteps on the stairs, fast and urgent. A cold calm settled over me. This was my moment. I opened the door before she could knock. Claire stood there, pale and shaken. "I need to talk to you," she said nervously. "Save it," I replied, stepping aside. "I already know everything." Her eyes widened in shock. "You're right," I said quietly. "You lied. But it wasn't just about the affair. You lied about us?" I watched her struggle to hold herself together. She was unraveling right in front of me, and for the first time, I felt no sympathy. Love was no longer part of this equation. This was about reclaiming control. Claire stayed silent, her eyes fixed on the floor. For a brief moment, I thought she might finally break. Then her posture shifted. She straightened, lifted her chin, and met my gaze with defiance burning in her eyes. "You still don't understand," she said, her voice steady now. "It was never just about the affair. It was about you. You were always chasing success, always working. You were never really there when I needed you. I tried." She stopped herself, shaking her head as if realizing she had said too much. I didn't let her continue. "You think I wasn't there?" I snapped. "You think I didn't give you everything?" The walls felt like they were closing in as my anger surged again. "You betrayed me, Claire. You threw everything we had away for a man like him, Jack Langley." Something dark flashed across her face. The guilt faded, replaced by something colder, something calculating. That was when I realized this betrayal ran far deeper than I had imagined. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the destruction she had set into motion. She left again, slamming the door behind her, this time without a word. The truth was finally out, but it brought no relief. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't shown remorse. The look she gave me told me everything. She thought she had won. She was wrong. That night, I sat alone in the living room, city lights bleeding through the windows. I didn't panic. I didn't spiral. I planned. I had never been ruled by emotion. I was precise, controlled, and now she was going to learn exactly what that meant. How do you hurt someone who has already walked away? You make them feel everything they tried to escape. You strip them down piece by piece. I started with what I knew best. Her weakness, Claire, was driven by ambition, status, power, admiration. What she never understood was that her image was built on my reputation. Without me, she was nothing more than another socialite clinging to borrowed importance. Once that disappeared, so would she. The next morning, I made a few quiet calls. Business associates, influential friends, familiar voices, from charity boards and executive circles. People who trusted me and listened. I didn't accuse. I didn't attack. I simply let the truth slip into the right conversations. Whispers spread. Invitations vanished. Doors quietly closed. Slowly she began to feel it. Calls went unanswered. Meetings dissolved. People who once welcomed her avoided her entirely. And that was only the surface. The real damage happened in her mind. I knew every insecurity she had ever confessed to me. Every fear she tried to hide. I used them carefully, patiently. Every evening for the next week, I made sure she noticed. Not directly, never openly. Just enough. First, a brief sighting in a familiar lobby, then outside a cafe we both used to visit. I watched her from a distance, knowing the confusion and anger would eat at her. I was still there. Still visible. But unreachable. On the second night, we crossed paths outside a luxury coffee shop. She looked exhausted, pale, hollow, still wearing that polished mask. "Hi," she said weakly. "I didn't expect to see you." "You didn't?" I replied calmly. "You were expecting Jack, weren't you?" Her composure cracked for half a second before snapping back into place. "I don't know what you're talking about." I leaned in, lowering my voice. You think he's going to save you, take you higher, just like I did. But tell me, what exactly do you think he wants from you? Her jaw tightened. Panic flickered beneath the surface. Or, I continued, softly, is he just using you the same way you used me? She turned away quickly, trying to escape. Don't worry, Claire, I called after her. He'll get tired of you soon enough. She didn't respond, but I knew I had struck deep. The next few days were like watching a slow collapse. She tried to reclaim her place, tried to re-enter the circles she once ruled. But everywhere she went, doubt followed, whispers, side glances, closed smiles. I had already been there before her. And then came the final move, Claire's greatest. Fear wasn't being alone. It was losing Jack Langley. So I set the stage. I invited Jack to a private business dinner at one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. Every detail was intentional. I made sure Claire knew about it days in advance. She knew I had leverage. She knew I could control the narrative. That night, she arrived and scanned the room, nervous, hopeful, desperate. Then she saw his. Jack didn't even look at her. He was focused on his phone, uninterested, detached. The truth hit her instantly. Jack, she said, her voice breaking. He cut her off. Claire, we need to talk. I've been thinking. And honestly, this was a mistake. We're better off as friends. I watched the color drain from her face. The woman who had manipulated everyone around her stood exposed and powerless. It was over. I stepped closer and whispered, You should have known better than to cross me. And with that, everything she had built collapsed. The restaurant fell silent. Claire stood frozen, lips moving without sound. It wasn't over yet, but she finally understood one thing clearly. She had lost. It wasn't shock that kept her frozen in place. It was the realization that everything she believed she controlled, every advantage she relied on to climb higher, had slipped out of her grasp. I saw the fury rise in her eyes as Jack casually returned to his phone, already done with her, denying her the attention she had always fed on. Her breathing turned shallow as she tried to steady herself, trying to understand the wreckage she had created. In that moment, Claire was no longer the woman who manipulated rooms and bent people to her will. She was exposed, stripped of power, and I didn't need to say another word. I had already won, but as she turned away, her shoulders sagging under the weight of defeat, something unexpected settled over me. Not triumph, not satisfaction, something far darker. I realized that revenge, no matter how carefully executed, leaves a bitter taste behind. She had taken something from me, something I could never reclaim, and watching her fall didn't restore. Her collapse wasn't enough to heal the damage. It didn't erase the years of manipulation or the months of betrayal. Claire walked out of the restaurant without a word, her flawless image shattered, just as she had shattered me countless times before. She never looked back, yet even as I watched her disappear, I knew this wasn't truly the end. Not for her, not for me. Too much remained unresolved. Too many loose ends still lingered beneath the surface. I didn't care what became of her attempts to rebuild, but I was certain of one thing: we would cross paths again. Revenge may have been satisfying, but there was something far more compelling in watching her struggle to rise from the ruins she never expected. Next time our worlds collided, she would be the one scrambling to survive, and I would be watching from the shadows. And me? What was left after all of it? Freedom from false love? Freedom from doubt and deception? Freedom from a game that had consumed me, but the scars didn't vanish. They remained on both of us. In the end, I learned something important. Revenge isn't about watching someone suffer. It's about reclaiming control, taking back the power that was stolen from you. And once you do, you realize you're no longer the same person. You're sharper, colder, more dangerous than you ever imagined. Even now, as I sit alone with my thoughts, I can't help but wonder what comes next. Because deep down, I know this truth: the games we play never truly end. And when the next chapter begins, I'll be ready. They always come back. And while Claire's world continues to crumble, there's someone else waiting in the shadows. A ghost from my past. Someone who understands betrayal all too well, and they're about to remind me of its cost. Stay tuned for the next video, where the real test begins. Because revenge was only the opening move in this time. It's personal. If you want to see how this twisted game unfolds, hit subscribe, leave a comment, what would you have done in my place? And share this story with anyone who needs a reminder. Never trust everyone who claims to love you. Until next time, remember, there's always more beneath the surface.